Well, welcome back to week number 3 of framing. And you can see from the video that there has been quite a bit of work done in the last 3 weeks, to say the least. This house is virtually complete when it comes to framing. It's still got some stuff up on the roof. Still have the overhangs, which, by the way, I found out are called a veranda. Last week I said it's a porch. Technically it's a veranda if it's partly covered and goes around a building. So it goes around a couple sides of the house, so we're going to call it a veranda. There's a portico they got the post set for, starting to put the supports in, the wood beams for that. You can see the roof is pretty much complete. It's a butterfly roof. You can see it better from the drone shot. But it's obviously nice to see progress. Been a long time in the making. One thing we learned this week is that we are in a seismic zone. Las Vegas and parts of southern Nevada are treated similar to what is parts of California when it comes to earthquake resistance. And when we talk to Marcia in a minute, she will explain how we had to change this window. But you'll see there's some steel supports down in the bottom corners of this room, because that's what they call a shear wall or a strength wall, and that is made to withstand earthquakes where there's a lateral shifting, and the frame is secured and secured to the floor. There's some major bolts that go into the foundation for that wall, and several of the walls in here that are considered shear walls. Did not know that until this week. And it's funny, the structural engineer that did this house had put some of that in the plan, all that in the plan. But when you look at the plan, you don't realize all that. You're looking at the 2x6 construction, and you're looking at all the heavier beams that are used. But you think that's just for normal construction of a house like this. But a lot of that was done because of the earthquake resistance, which is something totally new to us. So that was kind of a surprise. And I found out that Boulder City had a 1.7 magnitude earthquake at the end of March. Didn't feel it, didn't even know it. I doubt it made the news. But it just goes to show you that these engineers are on top of this stuff. So anyhow, there's the windows framed in for the great room. It's looking really good. Look who I found over here, Miss Marcia. How are you today?
I'm good. It's kind of a little bit of a hazy day. We've got a little bit of wind going on. Mainly today, we wanted to talk to you about some of the structural things, which I've never really thought about, how those structural requirements kind of require you to make some changes in design. And one of the things I think Bill was really happy about was when they put the shear wall or strength wall in, and I took a picture of that close up, so we'll put that in the video from the exterior, and it's marked very well. I'm sure that's for the inspector. Is that he wound up having to change the design of the windows in his office. And so we got the uh-oh call, and what do you think that we should do? So instead of 4 windows across, in here you'll see that we elected to go with 1 large window in his office. He's going to have one of the best views in the house, of course. And one thing about Bill is he is quite frugal, and as I am as well, but that was the one thing that he did not ask about, if there would be an upcharge for that, because when he saw the view, he was like, oh yeah, let's do that. So, and the other thing we didn't have to worry about is we didn't have to be concerned about that not having egress, because he has a door that goes out to the veranda. And so we didn't have to worry about having a window that was operable. So that's just going to be, there's no way to open that window. So anyway, the other thing, while we're here, I think you can see this right here. This is my window from the kitchen. I wanted a nice view from the kitchen. And if you look to the right, there used to be 2 more columns in front of that window, while one of the columns directly blocked my view. And we'll go in the kitchen and take a look, because those columns are gone, but now there is a nice big metal beam across. So we'll take a look and see how that's changed. And it's very important when you're looking at the design of the home, if there are certain views that you want to maintain, to work closely with your architect or designer, because there was literally a post right in front of this window, and it is gone now, and I am very happy. But we had to make that structural change in putting that beam across that stretches all the way from Bill's office wall exterior all the way over to this window in the great room. So we have a nice wide expanse of view that's not really blocked. And so those structural changes are sometimes costly, sometimes not so much, but sometimes costly. But you have to put, in my opinion, oops, I just hit my microphone. In my opinion, you have to be very cognizant of the fact that you put your money where you want it to be. And to me, the view is the most important on this lot. So if you'll come on into the entry, we'll discuss something else about.
Hey, before we go in there,
Yes.
why don't you spend a minute and talk about the design of these steel posts out
Oh,
here.
yeah. So
This is kind of a unique design that Marcia came up with for the architect to kind of ponder.
I had come across a more Western style home that you would probably see in maybe Colorado in the mountains, that had an overhang that had a similar V shape to it. But because of the heat that we have here, our designer wanted to make the overhang much deeper. And so I asked if there was some way that we could get that same Western look, since we do have mountains here, and I just kind of liked it. And so he had a fabricator fabricate these posts so it has that, I don't know what you would call it, but that V shape. And there will be ceiling or roof above this to give us some relief from the heat and the sun. And so I really like this look. I was very pleased when we came and we saw this, because seeing it on paper is one thing, but seeing it in life is certainly another. So now we'll go
Thanks
into...
for covering that.
Sure. So now we're going to go into the entry/dining room. And I think one of the most important things in designing a home is that the entry is very important. It's like, to me, it's like your face. It's the first thing that you look at when you meet someone. It's the first thing that you look at when you enter a home. And so we won't use all the time the dining room. We'll be sitting at the island in the kitchen. But I wanted a room that was very inviting, and I do look forward to entertaining in here. But the other part of me is that I love gardening, not vegetable gardening. I don't want to be canning and that kind of thing, although I certainly appreciate people that do. I wanted something pretty with some vegetation, and we have to be very cautious with water consumption here, and conscientious. And so we're choosing all plants, and here's my little garden here. All the plants will be, I know it's just dirt and rocks right now, but someday we'll share with you what the landscape will look like. They'll all be water-wise, very low water use, drought-resistant plants. And so that was important for me, that when people come and visit, when we enter our home, that we look at the natural beauty. So these will be the doors, and it's actually going to be, I'll let Bill tell you about it, it'll be a door and a side light, all built into one. So I'll let him talk to you about that.
Well, we wanted a door that was large enough to get big items in and out of the house. Because one of the things that, you know, everybody wrestles with is you buy a new sofa or you buy a big refrigerator or something, you have trouble getting it into a 3-foot door. So we wanted to have a wider front door, because the way the house is, it's all on one level and you can bring stuff in and out of any door really. So we thought the front door would be a great place for a nice wide door. And as I mentioned on one of the previous videos, the door, believe it or not, ended up being 5 foot 2 inches wide. It's what they call a pivot door, which is a large glass, bronze framed, just a solid piece of heavy glass. It's similar to what you see if you go into some commercial buildings and so forth. But it's really nice because the door doesn't hinge on the end. It pivots about a foot in on the side. So it's not quite so heavy when you open and close it. And it kind of counterbalances it, if you will. But it allows us to then easily be able to bring anything we want straight in and out of this house right from the driveway. Because the driveway runs right up along the side of that portico. So it really makes it kind of easy to be able to function. That was kind of our goal in that. But one of the challenges we had, did you talk about the fact the portico was out of alignment?
No.
Go ahead and take that. You can talk about that.
All right.
So.
Before we go into the portico, though, I want you to notice up here this big beam that went across. When we were trying to decide what type of door, when we were working with the builder and the designer, we couldn't really decide what door we wanted for sure. We weren't certain about cost of the pivot door, if that was going to be in the budget, but the builder suggested we go ahead and put that in. There's another structural thing that it's important. If you're not certain about something, it really didn't cost that much at the time to make the decision to put that in, this big beam, but at the same time, it didn't limit us down the road as to what kind of door we could put in. We could put anything we wanted in. So now talking about the portico. The main reason that I wanted the portico, and the designer put this in and I was very pleased, is that from the roadway, our house, the front of our house is on the side. It faces our driveway and not the road frontage. And so we're like, I don't like it when you look at a home and you're like, well, how do I get there? How do I get to the door? And so the portico extends out far enough so that you know, okay, that's where probably their front door is. And again, it gives some relief from heat. It's going to be covered, and it just kind of designates that this is where the front entry is. Now, the problem was, and this is where you have to look at details with the architect, your designer. They are going to miss a few things. And I know for a fact that there have been some things that have had to have been modified.
The window, for instance,
yes,
in the office. Yeah.
Right, with the builder. And I can't change that, but I can make suggestions or requirements for my home. And I think it's very important for you to look over the details as a homeowner. And so this portico was actually shifted to the right. And so the posts that come down were going to be very obvious in this window. And you can't see it right now, but it's in the laundry room. And so you're looking at posts in most of the windows rather than it being centered on your entryway. It was just a weird fluke, and I just happened to notice it because of what I had noticed in the kitchen. So then I started looking at the design from the interior of the drawing. And so luckily the guy that did the concrete and did the framing and our builder got together, and they kind of modified that. Well, they did modify that so that it was centered on the entry. And I would not have been happy no, I don't think anyone would have been happy being inside your home and looking out at the columns being offset. So those are important things. You have to pay attention.
Well, one of the things that came as a big shock is we're in the process of starting to grade for getting the foundation ready to pour. And we ran into what's called caliche. It is basically rock-like formations that get built up in the ground from chemicals in the soil and just pressure over time of the ground compacting, mostly a combination of a bunch of chemistry stuff. It creates this rock-like stuff called caliche. We ran into it on the back part of the garage, and we had to bring in what they call a hoe ram. It's like a backhoe with a long chisel punch thing on it, and it's like a jackhammer basically, and it just jackhammers and breaks up the rock. And then they have bulldozers take it out, and then they load it in the truck and haul it away. The bad news about that, obviously, is it costs a lot of money to get that removed. That's one. But the second thing is it limits how much you can clear out your lot without spending a fortune breaking all that up and getting it out of there. So we decided that we did what we had to do to get the house in, but it limits the room we have on the side, the back of the garage, on the side of the garage, to the point where we have about a 5-foot walkway around the garage, which is fine for general purpose stuff. But it limits what I can do as far as backing in and out of a large truck into my garage, which was one of the goals that I had for this garage. So it's going to be more challenging to back a pickup in or out of here because the turning radius over here is going to be significantly less than what I had anticipated. So it was a kind of a trade-off you have to make. How much money and effort do you want to put into it? And then just deal with a little bit of inconvenience is what we're going to do. So those are surprises that come up along the way when you build a house like this, especially one on a lot that's never been kind of graded and ready for construction. It was basically just a natural lot when we bought it. So it required a lot of extensive work to get to this point. Here's another shot. You can see the caliche very clearly back here. This is back behind our master bedroom, back where our patio is going to be for a hot tub eventually. And you can see the rock in that soil. So it's just one of the challenges. Just those are things that you run into when you build a custom home that a lot of people never anticipate. And it's one of those, hey, I got some bad news for you. So there was good news that went with it too, though. The bad news was obviously we had to get rid of that and pay for the removal of that. The good news was we were going to have some kind of a cement retaining wall back here to prevent the soil from coming back down in towards the house. And you can see all the height behind us regarding the height of this I wouldn't call it a mountain, but it's a fairly good sized hill. So now with all that rock in the soil, we no longer need that wall. That rock is basically solidified that back. Nothing's going to move back there. So it was a good and bad news story. That's just what happens when you build a custom home. So what were you going to say?
Yeah. Speaking about the caliche, one of the good things is we're hoping we're going to be able to have a hot tub craned in back here off of the master bedroom. And part of it's going to be, how much space we have left. We have a landscaping company that is going to come in and clean up a lot of the soil, move it around so that it's nice and clean. We've also been told that with the caliche back here that it will all be cleaned up, power washed, and then we can actually put some type of oxidizing spray on it that makes it look more like a stone wall, which it is, but makes it look a little more decorative. So we'll see what this all turns out. But you can't be in love with some things because you might lose them. There's a possibility that we may not be able to get that hot tub in. So, oh well.
Hey, I just noticed something up on one of the trusses on the roof. They got our name emblazoned on one of the joists up there. So that 50 years down the road, when there's 3 other people that have owned this house, they're going to know the original owners when somebody goes in the attic. I like that. That's good.
So the window company that we're working with, is fabulous. And we got a call from them literally the week that we found out about the caliche. And they said, hey, we happen to have a skylight that someone is not going to be able to use, that they've ordered. It's ready. Is there someplace in your home, because we'd been working with them, is there someplace in your home that you might like a skylight? And I immediately thought, only because it was the same week, I was concerned about getting enough natural light into our bedroom and bathroom because of that wall with the caliche. So we are actually going to have that installed, and we're having it installed so that it will allow light in right here at the doorway, right above, so that we'll get the light into our bedroom as well as the bathroom. And also you'll notice there's no windows in this bathroom except the toilet area back here, other than this transom above the shower. So I think it's going to be a win for us. I'm very excited about it.